Just incredible. Right, before we do our snap judgments on round 8 so far, got some news that Danny Widler's reporting that teams in contention for Jack Whiten say they're expecting an answer tomorrow. So that'll be, Wednesday tomorrow. Souths believe the money and the terms they've offered Whiten are satisfactory. Just a matter now of if Whiten can bring himself to leave his career-long club, obviously, in the Raiders. So it appears as though the reports, Matty, start to push further away from the Dolphins. And at the very start, it was either Canberra or the Dolphins, and in came the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it's not the Rabbitohs, Matty. I think I'd be really, really shocked. I think he'll sign with the Rabbitohs today or tomorrow. Unfortunately for the Raiders, it appears as though that he's on his way, that he's made his mind up. What'll be interesting now is who do the Raiders go after? Because, of course, as we know, it triggers a lot of other events. Who do they chase? They've got a lot of money, but who's on the market? Who can replace Jack Whiten? It's interesting, Matty. I look at Whiten at this point of his career, and I don't really view him as a centre as such. I like him. I think the best football that Jack will produce at this point of his career is in and around the middle. Probably in around 13 and 6, but South Sydney are looking at him as a centre, which is quite interesting. Of course, he won't play 13 while ever Cam Murray's fit there, and Lachlan Ilias. There was a little bit of discussion that his place could be. He could be in jeopardy of losing his halfback spot with Cody going into the 7 and Whiten into the 6, but I just can't see him doing that. They see Ilias as their long-termer. So, yeah, Jack will play. It appears, though, at least he'll start in the centres if he signs with Souths.
Which leads us to our snap judgments. And I said this yesterday as I went through the matches, Matty. Rabbitohs beat the Panthers 2018. And one of the key takeaways, aside from the amazing game and the great performance that you mentioned from the Bunnies, is, can you imagine just how much better they will be when Jack Whiten's in that lineup, in that back line, or in that lineup wherever he is? I've got him in there. I tipped him to win the premiership this year. But, wow, if he's going to land at their door next year, then look out.
Yeah, they're a great club, Matty. Really, really great club. My heart is with Newcastle, of course, but if I have a second side, this is going to sound so bad because I've got a son at Manly, but if I have a second side, yeah, I know. I know, but I just love the Rabbitohs. It's just something like there's all these little stories that happen when South's looking to get back in the competition, and they made myself and Andrew an offer. What they needed to do, they needed to prove in court that they could, number one, get the sponsorship money. Number 3, be able to break profit. Number 3, number 2, break profit. Number 3, the crucial one was be able to attract players, quality players. So they come to us and they said, listen, discreetly, if we make you an offer, would you be interested in leaving Newcastle? And we said, look, no. Look, we're Newcastle boys. That's the bottom line. And they said, okay, let's have a think here. Let's have a think. Right. Okay, how about this? How's about we make you an offer, right? And then you blokes come out and we'll make it front page news. Yes, you're keen to sign for the Rabbitohs. And we said, deal. So we ran this facade for about a month that we're on the brink of signing for the Rabbitohs, so that when they went to the court, they could produce the paper and say, look at this, we've basically got our half 5'8". So, the things you do, when the Rabbitohs supporters and league supporters marched on Town Hall to get them back in the competition, my God, it was thousands of people from Newcastle drove down, hopped on buses or drove down on their own accord, got the train down, to join in that march. And my son Jack had 2 years at the Bunnies, and just a great club. It's, to steal the motto from Barcelona, it's more than a club for that community around Maroubra and South Sydney.
It sets up a huge one on Friday night between the Broncos and the Bunnies. Could well be one of the games of the year after the Bronx beat the Eels up there in Darwin, and we've touched on the hip drop controversies. The Sharks got home against the Dogs 33-20. Your snap judgment on the very, very early days of the 6 and 7 switch from Cameron Ciraldo. Is he going to stick with it?
I think he will stick with it because, Matty, I don't think Cameron Ciraldo expected that it was going to be the panacea to fix all things. It's going to be a slow burn. Matty Burton's going to have to learn to play that 7 role, steer the side around the park a little bit, take more responsibility, call for the quality possessions. I'll tell you what it did make. It made a difference to Cole Flanagan. Like he played with a freedom. It really emancipated him. He got out there and he was calling the football and he was running the football. Burton was solid. I thought his kicking game was good. He was putting up some of those towering bombs. I think for as far as the Dogs are concerned, it's a step in the right direction.
The Cowboys beat the Knights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for the Sharks, I'll just say, Matty, sorry about that. For the Sharks, we talked about this in the Sunday night show. I can't quite get a read on the Sharks at the moment. I still can't. That was a game, like a number of games through the year, that they were in a position to blow the opponents apart and blow them away, and they couldn't do it.
Which is interesting because, as I mentioned, the Cowboys beat the Knights, and it's been so hard to get a read on the Cowboys in the first 6 or 7 rounds. So have we got a better read of them now?
Yeah. They're a quality team because they did so much wrong against the Knights. There was no Taumalolo, okay, but they just did so much wrong with the football, their errors. The amount of 7 tackle sets they gave away when the game was on the line, the game was in the balance. In that last 20, 30 minutes, they just kept giving us 7 tackle sets, but their defence was strong. So it just showed, that they went out there, they were making all the right noises going in, the Cowboys saying, this is must win, we have to find a way to win this, and they played that way because they play with a lot of defensive energy. And like I've said many times here, if you want to gauge desire, you just watch the way a side defends.
And then finally, your snap judgment on the Dolphins-Titans match. Extraordinary game of footy. I caught up with Warren Smith yesterday, who called that match for Fox League. So they come on back. We know all the stats around it. A comeback for the ages, 28-26. What does it say? What's your snap judgment about the Titans on this one?
Well, Matty, what you see with football sides, within a football side sits either deep-seated insecurity or deep-seated confidence. The sides who have got that deep-seated confidence, they can be 12 down with 10 to go, or like in the Rabbitohs case, what was it? They were 8 down with 4 to go, and they go, okay, now this is going to be interesting. How do we win this game? Right, that's their mindset. I've been in teams that are flying. I mean, no matter where you're down, you look at the clock and go, well, I know we're going to win. Geez, how are we going to pull it out this week? Sides who have those insecurities and suffer from a lack of confidence, it doesn't matter how far they're ahead, they're just watching the scoreboard. That's what it was with the Titans. 26-0 up, and just watching their body language behind the line when it went 26-6. Like 26-6, if you told them before the game that, at one point you're going to lose 26-6, they'd be cock a hoop. Yep, they were sitting there, heads bowed, they looked pale. There was almost like a feeling of impending doom, and you saw it. Yeah. Now, how it manifests itself, I likened it for a playmaker, but with rugby league sides, particularly playmakers though. We're talking about Vegas before, right? Let's talk about the casinos. That in the first 20 minutes of the contest, if you're a playmaker, as far as pressure's concerned, you're playing the pokies, right? You're on the 1 cent pokies or the 2 cent pokies. You're having $2 hits, maybe, something like that. But when you get down to the last 15, 20 minutes and the game's on the line, you're in the high rollers room, right? And all the decisions you made when you're playing, $5 hands and blackjack, or those frivolous decisions and things were just going your way, suddenly you start second guessing yourself, and it's a totally different game because of pressure. So that's why the great playmakers still get it done, because they can handle the pressure. Right? They've got that deep-seated confidence. I watched the Gold Coast play, and when they watch back at that game, some of those individuals will look at that last 15 minutes and go, what was I thinking? AJ Brimson goes through on tackle 1. He's on his way downfield, and when he made that break, I thought to myself, well, here they go. They're going to consolidate here and get the win. On tackle 1, throws this loopy, speculative pass, which the Dolphins intercept and go down. And you go, what are they thinking? There were so many areas. The moment, Matty, it was 26-6, the Dolphins just looked at the rear vision mirror. Their football was terrible. It was a real lack of mental toughness.
They looked around, they realised they were in the high rollers room, and the bets started to look a little bit bigger than what they
Yes.
possibly were. We'll